are about to get so much better. So if you've been waiting to buy a new Mac or a MacBook, well, it's great that you waited because these are getting a major update. We have a bunch of new information I'm gonna cover. One thing which is going to make a lot of people very happy. Now, the first piece of news that we have is that Apple is actually manufacturing new MacBooks right now ahead of launch. Now, this is specifically for the 14 and 16-inch MacBook Pros that are gonna come with the M4 Pro and the M4 Max chips, but these are not the only ones that are gonna be coming out soon. Now, we saw the M4 chip in the new super thin iPads, and it is insanely powerful. So these M4 Pros and M4 Maxes are gonna be absolutely outrageous. We had some information showing us scores of the performance about 15% higher in multi-core, but there's other people saying it's gonna be 25% higher. And I think based off of the M4 chip and the performance that it gained there, the difference is going to be massive. Now, I have to give you guys my opinion. I think we're getting to a point where the performance is so crazy good. Do we really need that much more? I know some people do that do very heavy, very tough tasks. And if you've been waiting, you're gonna spend the same amount of money, get better performance, why not? But these are a little bit insane. And the crazy thing is you can buy an M4 chip machine and it's gonna be outperforming Max chips from the past. So you can actually save yourself some money because of all the improvements. Now, of course, this is the second generation 3nm design. So it actually gets better performance while using less power, and that is awesome. With some information that Apple's gonna make these MacBooks thinner in the future, but this redesign or this upgrade is not gonna have that. That's gonna be saved for newer OLED designs. This is mainly a spec bump of the chips, but I wanna let you guys know that because of this change, we are actually gonna be getting quieter machines that run cooler in the same chassis. And that is great because as Apple has been updating from the M1 series to the M2 and 3, well, the fans have been running faster, it's been running hotter, so that is going to be nice. Now, for those of you that don't want to spend that much money or don't need the performance of the Pro or Max chips, well, we have new info that Apple has been testing 4 new Mac models with the M4 chip. Now, previously, we were told that these machines will be coming out later in 2025, and this year, we're only gonna get the high-end chips, but now it seems like we're gonna get some sweet new machines. Now, this leak, which is coming from Mark Gurman, who has been very accurate, gives us a ton of different information. And the first piece is that Apple is testing a new MacBook Pro with the M4, so that is the 14-inch model. This one that came with a cheaper price tag was missing one USB Type-C Thunderbolt port. It also only had one fan. Now, with that, they're also testing the iMac, which is also just using that base chip, and a Mac Mini. Now, we recently did a video on the Mac Mini, and that thing is gonna be sweet. I think it's gonna be a really big seller. They haven't updated it in such a long time, so now it will actually get smaller. It will have the M4 and another major update. But first, I also wanna tell you guys some other information. Now, previously we also talked about with the M4 chip and the added new controller for the display, they're gonna get rid of the limitation of only having one external display turned on while you have the laptop open. And with that, it should also have the bandwidth to bring back that missing USB Type-C port. So this is gonna be a killer machine for that $1,600 that they started off at. And of course, that single fan did spin up quite a bit because you have a pretty powerful processor with just a tiny fan instead of 2. Well, with these M4 chips, they run cooler as well, so that is great. But I want to talk about the biggest thing, and that is the fact that we got new info that these tests are all being done with a base spec of 16 gigabytes of RAM. Yes, finally, it looks like Apple is ditching the 8 gigs of RAM that they have had for 12 years now for a baseline and giving us 16. I want to say thank you to Qualcomm because they made it a standard to have 16 gigs as base for very low prices on their machines. And of course, other manufacturers are also doing that. And so that is just forcing Apple to finally have to do this. Now, we previously thought they're gonna come with 12 gigs of RAM because the M4 iPads, the 8 gig base ones, actually had 12 gigs of RAM built in. It was just locked down. Now, we thought that could be for Apple Intelligence or for maybe unlocking in the future, or because the M4s could come with 12, but it looks like 16 is what we are going to get. Now, another reason is because of the Apple Intelligence that I mentioned. On the iPhones, those are now gonna come with 12 gigs as a standard because Apple Intelligence does use a lot of RAM, and on the Macs, 8 gigs, well, that hasn't been enough already. So with Apple Intelligence, it would be bad. For example, when the M1s came out, 8 gigs of RAM, it was kind of sucky, but it did okay. When we did testing, only if you did extreme unrealistic things would it slow it down. But then with the M2 chip and 8 gigs of base, well, if you're doing some multitasking, it would actually be slower than the M1 because the M2 really needed more RAM. That was a bottleneck. And with the M3, the 8 gigs is an even bigger bottleneck. So it was insane that their 14-inch M3 redesigned laptop came only with 8 gigs. You had to spend $200 more. So finally, that is going away, meaning you're saving at least $200 if you are buying that machine because it now comes with 16 and it's gonna make it perform how it should. So thank you, Apple. Finally, took way too long. Now, currently, when you start with the 8 gig, you can update to 16 and then to 24, but it looks like for the M4s, you will be starting at 16 and your upgrade will be up to 32 gigs of RAM. So no longer limited to 24, you can actually get 32. So that is also great because these M4 chips are powerful, beating out previous Max chips in terms of CPU performance while being way more efficient. Now, the last leak that's really making me think is that out of the 3 Macs that I listed, there are 4 total, and the 4th one had an M4 chip with only an 8-core CPU and an 8-core GPU. Now, in that M4 iPad, you can get a 9-core CPU with a 10-core graphics or a 10-core if you would upgrade your storage enough and get more RAM. And that 9-core is less powerful, but it's not a massive difference. And we thought this is gonna be the configuration for these Macs. So what's up with an 8-core CPU, 8-core GPU? We know that these M4s have 6 efficiency cores, and if you have the bin 9-core, you get 3 performance instead of 4. So is this gonna have 2 performance cores and then 6 efficiency cores and then just less graphics? That is really, really weird. Now, we don't know what this machine is, but because we didn't have a MacBook Air listed here out of these products, that would be the one that made sense. So if they were gonna bin it even more, well, are they gonna try to give us a lower price MacBook, drop that price tag even more, or that's just gonna be the standard configuration? That is odd. Now, of course, the performance will still be great. The 9-core seems like it clocks a little bit higher than the 10-core M4 model and makes up for some of that difference. But if this is what they are going to do, well, you are gonna get absolutely insane battery life. And most people that are buying a MacBook Air, well, they're using it for regular tasks, so they don't need a crazy amount of performance. And with the M4 architecture, it's still gonna be excellent. So that is something that we are gonna have to see, and also see when it is gonna come out. That model might be coming out in spring of 2025, but we've never seen so many binning options with a base Apple Silicon chip. So you guys let me know your thoughts about that down in the comments section below, and what you think about Apple finally moving up to 16 gigabytes of RAM, and are you gonna be picking up one of these new M4 Macs? And if so, which one are you looking to get? So thank you guys for watching. Click that circle above to subscribe. Check out one of those great videos right over there. This has been Max, and I'll see you in the next one.